Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on 5 ways live field data improves COVID-19 safety. My name is Mike Merrill, and I am the COO and one of the co-founders of AboutTime Technologies and WorkMax. And I'm anxious to share this information with you and your teams today. Again, thank you all for joining, and we'll get started. First of all, I wanted to share a quick study that was done by the University of Texas at Austin regarding special safety precautions and the risks of hospitalization. And basically the study states that by the middle of August, construction job sites would have double the transmission risk of a typical workplace. And so there is, according to this study, a likelihood, if we are not taking extra precautions, that there will be 8 times the number of people hospitalized. So very astonishing numbers, and something that is very compelling to make sure that we're doing our part to try and help avert those risks. One other thing, a Yale professor and a physician, Dr. Nicholas Christakis, said that there's a 75% chance that COVID-19 will come back in the fall. And so, of course, COVID-19's risks are not going to go away and even be mitigated to a great degree until we have a vaccine. As we know, in different pandemics, and we've heard based on different studies, that we have had many challenges related to all kinds of parts of the industry aside from just our health and safety, but the repercussions and those things that occur because of these risks and because of the reaction to the potential risks have, of course, affected us all greatly. So we obviously want to do our part as individuals and as organizations, but also most certainly as an industry. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the vaccinations, of course, of this type, according to most studies and most experts, could take up to 18 to 24 months to actually complete and have dialed in. According to Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, these statistics are stating that it could be anywhere from even 12 to 18 months. So depending on which study, depending on which expert you want to listen to, it sounds like we could be easily within 12 to 24 months before we actually have a more solvable scenario for this issue that we're all facing today in this pandemic. For the agenda today, we're going to talk about several different things, kind of high level. Want to talk generally about how we can help track COVID safety better, what tools are available. Why is live field data compelling? I know from my background in construction and from the thousands of customers that we have on our products, construction is an industry of risk, and it's certainly something that we face every day in different forms and fashions. This is just a different scenario. These things are unprecedented, and one of the greatest things that we can do to solve those challenges on a daily basis is to increase visibility. And the way that we do that is to provide tools that give you live information, daily information, that's not trapped in paper or spreadsheets or in somebody's truck. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the solutions. How are we solving some of these safety issues? How are we helping you to get ahead of this where you can and when you can with solutions that make sense? We've got a poll today that we're sharing. Those of you in the attendee list in the audience will see the question is, how are you documenting your safety right now? The options are paper, spreadsheets, software, or other. I know from the discussions while you're all voting, we'll wait for those results to roll in. But in the meantime, I know from general feedback, probably the vast majority of companies out there are on some type of paper or after the fact entry system. So we'll see what the results state and go from there. All right, looks like we have our totals. It's showing that we have 14% of companies on this webinar are on paper, so physical paper. 43% are spreadsheets. So between those two, we're looking at almost 60% are on paper or spreadsheets. Just under a third of you are using software of some sort, which is good. And then 14% have other processes, it looks like. So generally speaking, what we see here is only a third of the companies on this webinar are actually utilizing software of some sort. Those software systems might be fabulous, but again, just like the term live field data, if the software system is not web-based or there's not rapid visibility into what's going on, then although it's better than paper or a spreadsheet that's on somebody's hard drive on their laptop, it's still, again, not as actionable, which I think is the key to any type of data collection. The reason we collect data is to take action and make better decisions based on that. So we want to help provide more actionable data. With some of the safety challenges that COVID-19 presents to construction companies, it does often feel like trying to push a rock up a hill from what we're hearing and what I'm seeing out in the marketplace. The biggest challenge that I think we all face in the community and even society in general is the rapid and ever-changing information. What is safe, what is appropriate, and then maybe what is proactive. And so those are things that, of course, we've got to work out and figure out quickly to prevent this spread and flatten that curve. You've got employees working at multiple job sites. They're possibly having issues having their safety training meetings because, of course, they're geographically dispersed, whether it be different job sites or, again, trying to maintain proper social distancing and keeping the proper spacing. And that can present problems for large companies with large crews. And so we want to help provide tools that can give everybody the same information at the same time rapidly. And then if things change, there's something new or something else that needs to be reviewed or trained upon, we want to provide that very quickly and simultaneously to everyone. So everybody's working off of the same information. The next thing, many companies are utilizing possibly one device or one tablet or one kiosk or one place to enter data. So if that's a challenge or a concern, we want to make sure that you have tools and access to the application where you need it. And then within the application, are there things that we're doing to help accommodate proper handling of that device so that there aren't any unnecessary people having to handle it. And we'll talk about what some of those things are here in just a little bit. The other thing, paper forms in the field. As we all know, we've heard, I think in the news and in various studies, physical paper is a great risk of exposure. Even money, many stores out there are not even taking cash. You swipe your own credit card, you insert the chip on your own card, and they may have a plexiglass screen between you and them while you do it. So these are risks and challenges, and so paper is number one on the hit list of something that we really need to try and remove from the equation and from our workflows. Group safety trainings. What does that look like today versus maybe a few months ago or last year? When groups are limited in size or have limitations on the proximity that they can be to one another, that can present challenges on a large project or on different job sites. So we want to, again, help provide the same information to multiple people wherever they're at, and then have tools to update that when things change or when something needs to be modified. The next thing, of course, and this is a challenge in construction in general and in any industry that's dependent on after-the-fact manual entry or recording of data. The UPS guy does not write down the code on the package manually and then hand deliver that to the office. Obviously, those things are captured digitally and very accurately and in real time. And so we want to give you tools that are very similar to that. Illegible handwriting of any form or fashion is always a problem and a challenge, of course. And that's something that, that we want to help you completely eliminate from your workflow. The other thing, and this, my background, I was in construction, was a general contractor for many years. We self-performed, so I have a lot of history running crews and working on various projects. And incomplete data was a huge issue for my organization and has been for most of the companies that I've talked to during the 17 plus years that AboutTime and WorkMax have been in business. We want to make sure that the right project is on those documents, that they are choosing from the right cost code or task or phase list. We want to make sure that if they're filling forms out, those forms are on purpose, and that once they're completed, that they are immediately submitted and processed or sent to the other individuals that need to have access to that feedback and that information or those forms. When there's an issue or an accident, we call 911 on the phone. Well, on a construction project, we don't have a 911 for you know, a broken piece of concrete or sidewalk or a smashed water can or other safety issues or warranty issues or damage issues that need to be addressed. So we want to give you tools like a 911 within our application where those things are immediately brought to the attention of those that need to manage them. And in order to do that on a base level, we can't have missing data. Of course, one of the large things that have been added to current workflows in construction companies are photos and video capture, taking footage of things that are documenting the project and the progress at the site, or when there's issues, when somebody's piping or ducting or venting or wiring is in your way so you can't complete your task. Those things often need to be documented and brought to somebody's attention. So it's difficult to track those things. That could be a challenge with any process. And so again, utilizing these same forms that we're tracking safety and that we're doing trainings and that we're doing COVID risk aversion or other safety measures on, we can utilize for all parts of our workflow in the field to keep everything organized. Not just our forms, but our photos and other data that we're collecting. The other thing, once the data has been collected, without a system and an application and a structure, you can't necessarily control the format. And so if someone in the office is entering data that's been submitted to them, it's entered as they enter it, possibly manually or by hitting the tab button and then typing again. So we want to preempt those data collection points and put them where they belong. Send them to the place that needs to see them. And then again, just as I mentioned earlier, make that data actionable. Aside from just capturing data in the right format, not having missing jobs or projects or cost codes, missing shifts, missing employees, all of those types of things. Even once we get all of that data, most companies are employing very disparate workflows and processes to capture and process that data. And so whether it's something manual or paper in a file, or it's photos in an email or an attachment, or again, a travel log, or possibly expense reimbursements. We're talking mainly and primarily today about COVID safety. And those things are critical, and not just once during the day, but possibly at the beginning of the shift and the end of the shift. And we'll go through a workflow today that can help accommodate that as it relates to COVID specifically. One of the things that we've done on the WorkMax platform to address these challenges and all other data collection challenges related to time and labor and productivity, and then also other ancillary parts to people working on a shift that are important for safety or HR or the Department of Labor. We want to document this data in real time, but we also have to process payroll. We have to capture total hours on a project. we've probably invested in an ERP or accounting system of some sort to do our job cost management and our budgeting, our estimating. So we have these different systems that we need to put data into, or we need to collect data from. And WorkMax will help you collect each of these pieces separately. However, the data can be shared within the platform so that when you're tracking time, a form can be launched that's appropriate for that shift. When you're working on a certain project or cost code that needs equipment use, the equipment use can be enabled during that transaction. And then when somebody clocks out at the end of the day to end their shift, we may want to present safety questions or COVID-19 questions to make sure that they're feeling well and that they are healthy and ready to work in the morning or go home at night safely to their family. So I'll show you in the live application here in a little bit exactly what we're doing to address and to solve those things. Again, that solution would be a form launched based upon a time transaction. To kind of recap the title of the webinar and the bullets that we have shared out there that we're going to address specifically, we want to help you expedite the collection and sharing of that data in real time, again, to help avoid risk. We, of course, want to automate that data, automate where it goes, who gets access to it, and when. What are those triggers? We want it, of course, to be rapidly deployed so that those things can be utilized by anybody with a smart device in our application. One of the other things that we have heard from feedback is that in this increased safety form completions, we have one particular case study, a smaller organization, less than 50 employees. They were able to capture and gather over 400% more forms on a daily basis than what they were capturing when they were doing it manually. So WorkMax was allowing them to capture a substantial number of forms that was a great increase to, again, mitigate that risk and to make sure that they're documenting those things that they're supposed to be documenting. One of the things that we can do within forms is that we can require certain fields, like the project. This selection must be chosen before they can move on or do anything further within the form. And so we're actually driving workflow and helping ensure that not only are they documenting what they're supposed to, but they aren't leaving out important information that is required. One of the other things, aside from just project and job location information, is rich media, which might mean, again, a photograph, video, audio notes. We can do voice to text, so other things. If you've got a JSA form, job site analysis, and you need to select safety items that are being utilized, you can control, again, what that list looks like upon punching in or out or filling that form out. We have the ability to launch other things like video capture, photo capture. When they're clocking in or out, we can capture their photo and biometric profile to make sure that it's the correct employee. And so other tools that can help you feel more confident about the data that's being collected. One of the other things within the forms module is we can require certain fields and questions to be answered or populated. And upon that selection, like for example, this, were you injured on the job site today question that we're seeing, we have a trigger that says, if they answer yes, please launch this injury or accident report form. And so these nested forms or triggered forms are able to help drive workflow and make sure that there are no unanswered questions when anyone in your organization is filling out or completing a form or a document. We, of course, want to automate that workflow. So where does it go? Who gets it? Where is it stored? So all of this data is stored on AWS, Amazon Web Services, in the cloud. And so you have the opportunity and the ability to not only have it archived indefinitely and available to you, but you can export and save those things off, put them into an external hard drive or server space somewhere else if you wish. But that data is organized by project, by employee, by form, by whatever method of filter that you want to run on those data points. And so it's always going to be easy to find. Aside from that, we do have the ability to automate when a form is completed, that form actually could be automatically emailed and sent to a distribution list to people on your staff. We also have the option to append an additional email address. So if you have a project owner or a general contractor, maybe an HR company or organization that you've hired, or payroll, other things that may need to have access to that data, they can be on that distribution list. So when that form is completed, they automatically get a copy emailed to their inbox in a PDF format. With rich media, again, within the form, they could capture video footage of a broken pipe or a leaky roof or something else that needs to be documented. Photos are the same. Any of these data points that are captured also can be exported out from the form within the WorkMax system and then shared or leveraged with other systems or other places that you need to send that data to in order to make it, again, actionable. Within the forms, we also have the ability to answer deeper questions or further questions. So, for example, if I'm clocking in, I can have a question come up that says, have you filled out a safety checklist? If I say yes, it will let me just clock in and go about my work and my business. If I say no, it brings up that list of items and gives me an opportunity to then select those before I punch in. Again, making sure that you have completed whatever is necessary from a workflow standpoint and a safety standpoint. Now, as we step further into COVID-related safety issues, we have here, similar to the gloves and the other checklist, on this clock in and out, in this particular case, on the out, we can have a mandatory COVID safety questionnaire. Again, this one, are you feeling 100% healthy, well, and ready to perform your work activities today? I can answer yes or no. If I say no, I'm not feeling well, then I can be prompted with questions of what types of symptoms am I experiencing? And then from there, I even have a link to an external video. This one's to a YouTube video on hand washing. I'll show you in the live app here in a few minutes what that looks like. And then I can sign off on it and review a signature. So by nature of this process here, I can prompt them to watch a 2-minute video on safety and hand washing, fill out what symptoms they're feeling, and then when this gets signed and completed, that form automatically, upon the time entry being successful and confirmation, is auto-sent to that distribution list, as well as populated in the WorkMax cloud, so that that data is, again, visible and available so that it is actionable to all of those in your organization that need to have access to that. I talked about how we're distributing that data once those forms are submitted. So right here, we have, if I look on this use employee requirements. So on this form, COVID mandatory daily safety form that's active, okay? So any of my active forms, I can set up these time requirements or, again, subscriptions, other things. But right here, on clock in, all employees must fill this out according to this setting. I also can require that on clock out. So are you still feeling well, essentially, would be the question. Are you still feeling any symptoms? Or are you feeling new symptoms? Maybe this morning you weren't. And so this can capture beginning and end of shift safety questions. And then again, I can also do things like required for certain locations. So if I have forms that are unique and specific On the COVID safety form, it's probably all projects, okay? I could just check this on. Other forms that I may have within my system might only be on certain projects, or they're project-specific forms. And again, on clock out, I can require, again, based on location of clocking out of these projects that are checked, that form would come up. So very configurable, very powerful, and most of all, and most important, actionable. All right, so the next area is the email subscriptions. So when these forms are completed, like this COVID-19 mandatory safety form, it will automatically be submitted to these particular individuals within your organization. And then we can add external emails like shay@constructionhr.com. Shay will get a copy of every one of these forms that are submitted because of this setting within the WorkMax cloud platform. We also have the ability to add a disclaimer at the end of somebody's shift when they go to clock out. This particular one, I've reviewed the updated COVID-19 safety and precaution manual. This is custom text, so you can put in whatever you want. You could put in multiple things that they're affirming. Once they accept that, that affirmation comes in with the shift, and you have proof and validation that that has occurred and they have acknowledged and affirmed the question or the comment that you have stated. So when I have this COVID safety form come up at the end of the day on a clock out in the mobile app, in this particular case, I've also turned on the GPS settings. So I want to see physically where this form was populated. So if they're on the back corner of this project, when they completed that form, we're going to get a GPS pin of where that was answered automatically. Now, this is a satellite view. We can view it based on map or satellite. It's just a setting. In this form, what was asked, are you feeling 100% healthy, well, and ready to perform your work activities today? No. If I answer no, the question of what the symptoms are comes up. I sign it, and now that document, again, based on the prior email or the prior slide regarding these emails, Shay has a copy, Mike Merrill has a copy, Stephen Cooper has a copy, and David Smith has a copy immediately. Aside from those PDF copies that went out, it's also in the cloud system. It's also stored on every one of the project. Those forms can be viewed based on cost code, what they were working on. They can be viewed by employee, and then they can be viewed globally. Show me all forms for this date range that were completed. And then if I want to filter or sort that column, I can also do that at the same time. Again, the key to each one of these things that we're covering is these things are actionable. So now, not only are we capturing GPS from a aerial map view or satellite view, but we also have a geofence setting. So I have a geofence setting of 1 mile around this project. You can see when I clock in or out outside of that, that is being documented. There is an alert that comes up on the record if an employee punched in or out outside of that geofence area. So now, not only are we capturing their safety documentation and their forms, but we're confirming where they physically were when they transacted that punch, when they filled out that form, and we're bringing it to your administrator's attention automatically if there's an issue with their location. Now, this will not prevent them from clocking in or out if they are not within the geofence area. What we don't want to ever do is prevent them from utilizing the tool. We only want to bring it to your attention when there's an issue with the transaction that they chose to enact. So from an HR perspective, again, we're not preventing, we're enabling, and then we are doing, well, what is commonly referred to as the trust but verify approach. So we trust them, but we also need to confirm and verify. And so this is a way that you can do that passively without physically having to do anything. They just punch in, they punch out, they fill out the form. this data is gathered in the background. Not only are we gathering location and COVID items, but if we have a toolbox talk or some type of a safety meeting that's regular, weekly, monthly, daily, whatever that is, we can actually document that within the Forms tool. Take a photo of the crew members and have them all sign off on the list. Or maybe on a certain topic for the week, we can add this text to the form, make it red in color, do what we want to make it stand out or be brought to their attention more specifically. And then again, those signatures come in. We can gather the GPS stamp of where this photo was taken and all of those other things also. So again, we're trying to document not only what happened, where and when, but let's confirm who, let's confirm their location and other data that will help you have more confidence, and most importantly, be able to avoid the extra risk and liability that can happen. Other things that are maybe just general project management related, if you've got a daily log or a job diary or journal, safety, again, if there's an issue upon walking down these steps, Larry here twisted his ankle or hurt his foot, we want to have the ability to document that, gather those signatures. Did anyone call 911? Who's the witness? Did they go to the hospital? Did someone call an ambulance? These are custom questions that we can help you build within your account and gather whatever you need. So it's very common for new customers to get us copies of the forms that they're using and talk through the workflow, look at what that looks like for them. And then we just map those data fields out in the WorkMax Forms module, put those triggers in place. So based on responses, we'll deliver additional questions. And now they have a digital, real-time, live field data view that's shared automatically by the system with everyone who needs a copy, whether they're in their company or even external. And then more than that, it's organized, legible, and ready to take action once you need to refer back to that document. Now, we've talked a lot about the forms, what the options are, GPS, confirming where they're at. One of the things that is also critical with any of this type of data, we want to make sure that the employees that are putting this data in and logging this information are actually the employees that are in your system. So in this case here, when we punch in and out of the WorkMax product, we have included patent pending biometric facial capture. This is not just a photo that is passively taken and then you're forced later to hunt and peck through pictures, scrolling, possibly, and especially in larger organizations, an admin or somebody processing payroll or even project managers, they may not know and be familiar with every single person on a project. And so we want the system to manage that data for you. And how we do that is we capture a likeness match. You set the threshold. I have these set at 70%. In this particular case, you see I've got a baseball cap on, I've got a beard here, different background, glass and stone here. And then in this other picture, clean shaven from head to chin, and then again, glasses. And I am within less than 3% of a perfect match of those three different images. And then down below, you see I put a hard hat on, I have no glasses here, I have a beard in these two and no beard here, and yet I'm still within 6 to 7% of a perfect match with this source image. So very accurate, very controllable by you. This is defined by you. You could put this at 50 or 60%, and it's probably going to have 99.99999% success at being accurate all the time. The other thing is when employees punch in or out for an employee that is different than them. So clearly, other than the same barber, I am not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and don't have a lot of physical similarities in height or muscular makeup or other things. But generally speaking, what we want to help identify is those outliers. So right here, this human icon is red. That is an alert and brought to your attention that there's an issue. On these other punches, they were dark or black, and that's because they matched. Now here I have the GPS globe. Those are a red alert that the punch occurred, whether it was in or out or both, outside of the geofence area that I have set up. And so again, actionable. You have the data. These things allow you to manage data, not drama. Now, one of the things that we've done as an organization, we received feedback within the first week of COVID-19 affecting our industry. Late January, early February, we got a couple of requests almost concurrently, like one day after the next, from some large organizations that said, we've got huge crews, 80 to 100 people. We don't want to have each of these foremen, you know, they may have 15 or 20 guys on each of their crews. We don't want them to be handing their device around and having everybody touch it. And so what can we do to still capture biometrics and confirm that Larry is Larry and Carlos is Carlos and Andy is Andy, without having them physically punch in on the foreman's tablet? And so what we did is we added the setting and capability for the camera on the back side of the device that you would normally take a photo or video footage of, and allowed that to populate the biometric reading area of our application. So in this case, somebody could be standing 6 feet away appropriately, and you could actually take a photo and it would do the biometric match for their profile. So in this case, essentially a foreman would have a pick list of the guys on their crew, and they select, you know, this manager selects this employee's name. When they punch in their behalf, it's capturing that image to make sure that they're tracking time for that person. They are physically there. This is a feature that we actually wrote within less than a week and had it completely deployed to the market. So we've responded very rapidly for our customers, and we've received great feedback since then. Many of them are now enjoying this new functionality. So just one other thing that we're trying to do our part and be responsive to the challenges that our industry is facing, and also help keep people more safe. One of the other things on our settings within the WorkMax platform, right here, I have a setting of clocking and others. And so this is what allows a foreman to pick, kind of like this, from a pick list of employees, and I'll show you in the mobile app here shortly what it looks like, but basically clock them in and or out while still gathering their biometrics and making sure that they are still physically there, they're still matched up properly, but they're not sharing one device that multiple people are handing around and having to introduce additional risk. Now, once the clocking in or out has occurred, one thing that we can do is we can trigger these types of forms or launch a video link like this and require them to view that and then sign off that they have reviewed this hand washing technique. So very, very powerful, very fluid. This link can be switched out or adjusted as needed. And again, everybody's looking at this same information. So you're not having people manually tracking or having to remember or be reminded to have somebody do something. This is something that the system does automatically, digitally. Now, because we captured data like this, of course, we have a myriad of reports. These are PDF generated canned reports. They're something that, again, is essentially aggregating the data and giving you visibility. One of the things that we've heard a lot of questions about and had customers looking for direction, how to best view where their staff are physically located, how many boots are on the ground on which projects. They're having to maintain those counts and remain aware so that they don't have too many people working on the same project or in the same zone, so to speak. And so one of the reports, like this one here, the fourth one down, the morning roll call report. Essentially what it does is you can run this report at 9 or 10 in the morning and look at where all of your employees are at physically, which project they're on, what they're working on, when they arrived. And then at the bottom, there's an absentee list. So who is an active employee in your organization that does not have a punch anywhere? And then also when you bring that name to my attention, where were they last and what were they working on while they were on the clock? So again, actionable data on a daily basis, live field data. Where are my people? Where are our crews? Where are our resources and our assets? And so this will help you maintain those counts, that visibility on a daily basis on which people are on which projects. Now that we've captured all of this data in many forms and fashions and formats, what can we do with it? So again, the job numbers, the cost codes, the projects, the employees, we can pull all of that from your ERP solution. We integrate with over 100 disparate systems that are specializing in construction and trades. Then we have many other integrations with other high-end systems, third-party payroll systems. So we're going to populate our system, WorkMax, from those systems to begin. So that data is going to match. But once you've collected it and reviewed and approved that data, we're also going to be able to export and push that data out in other formats so that you can enjoy it within the other business solutions that you're utilizing within your organization. All right, with that, I'm going to jump into a bit of a live overview of the product itself. I'm going to bring up my iPad here on the screen and allow you to see. There we are. All right, so here is my iPad, and I've got a pin pad just like a typical ATM or a phone pad. I put my pin in, I clock in, I'm Andre Biggs, I go to time clock, and now here's my project. I do have the ability to come in and select from a list of my available projects here. So I'm working on, let's say, again, this Payson City water treatment plant. When I clock in, because we have time and forms enabled, and we're talking about COVID safety, I want to ask these questions upon clock in from all my staff. Are you feeling well and healthy? So we've looked at this form a couple of times. Yes, I am. I have no symptoms today of these. And then I have the link of the video. I can click on this link right in my device, and it will go out. And again, this can be hosted wherever you need. It could be YouTube or whatever else. Whatever the link is that's available, 1918 flu pandemic, whatever that is, it's going to launch and be available to your staff at that time. Once I've reviewed that video, if this is a requirement that I have put on my staff, I've got a little red asterisk here indicating that this is a required field. Now I need to type yes and answer this question. Did you watch the COVID safety video linked above? Yes. Now I sign it. Andre Biggs. So I've collected date and time stamp, where I'm at. These questions have been answered. I hit save. Now that I've filled out my form to begin my shift, I'm going to pick my cost code. I'm working on gravel placement and grading. Now, because I chose gravel placement and grading, I can pick the piece of equipment that I'm utilizing. I'm using this JD grader. And now up comes the biometric capture. You see here in the top left, the front-facing camera is going to capture my photo. I've also got an area where I can leave a note here. I can do voice to text. I can type in a note. I can type in, this is a note. I hit save. That note accompanies the form that I filled out on COVID, my job and project, my cost code, the equipment I'm using, my note, and I hit confirm. Now it gathered my GPS location and my biometric profile. So probably 10 data points that I could have collected and did collect in less than a minute. In a real workflow, All of that can be done in a minute or minute and a half easily. It can be done on my own device if necessary or helpful. Now that Andre's on the clock, let's say another employee comes to clock in, Carlos. Same situation. Carlos comes in. He might pick a different location. He's working at the Salem City Fire Department. Clock in. Carlos is going to see the exact same form because I've required that of all employees. And the list goes on. So now not only are we clocking time, we're gathering forms, we're getting biometrics, we're doing GPS and GEO-FENCE. I also have the ability, and we talked about this with the group setting, I can pick other employees and say Stephen and Joseph and Martin are all working with me today at the elementary school project. And so now together, I can fill out that form, I can complete that. We also have the ability, again, to have that form come up or other forms or questions on clock out. So now that I'm going to clock out, you'll see this is a very different form than what we looked at on the clock in. But what I have done, I have embedded the COVID safety form on this form behind this question. So depending on how I answer these questions, those other forms would be launched. And I'll show you an example of that. So there's no accidents today. Yes, I took my breaks. And yes, I am feeling COVID symptoms today. And I go to sign. And when I hit save, it brings up the COVID form. So that was launched only if I answered that there is a symptom or more symptoms that I'm feeling. If I say no, that form does not come up. Hit save. Now it's asking me how many square feet of gravel did I put in. So I'm actually continuing my workflow. Now one other thing, hit confirm. We can launch, like we looked on the slide, this disclaimer also. So this is optional. You could do all of these things, one, multiple, but we're giving you multiple solutions and ways to capture important safety data related to COVID, related to safety in general, aside from collecting accurate field data, GPS, biometrics, and then ultimately integrating and feeding it into your payroll process in a digital, automated fashion. So all of this data becomes actionable and real time on a daily basis. And these tablets, these phones, they can work in airplane mode. All of the data that we're capturing, everything we're collecting, can all be captured offline. So if they don't have a good signal or don't have the ability to see a satellite or a cellular tower within miles, they're still able to capture and gather all of this data without fear or issue of not being able to utilize the tool. So one other form I'll show you quickly. When I go to clock out, I'm going to be asked these questions. Were there any injuries or accidents today? If I say there was, here with a yes, I did take my breaks, I'm not feeling any symptoms, and I go to sign. Just like the COVID safety form that was launched, I can launch the injury or accident report form. That's the one that we looked at with the guy that twisted his foot going down the concrete step forms. So all of these things, again, are very workflow driven based on your requirements and your needs. We're gathering all of this data. The other thing that we can do, now that it's been collected, we can go into time review and look at those entries and say, okay, who punched in, what time, where are they at, what are those totals? So here I've got, for the morning shift, Andre, Carlos, and Mike Merrill. So these three employees have their morning shift documented. You see they've got different times based on when they punched in, just a few minutes different. We do have rounding rules and other things related to the time that you can invoke. But what I want to show you is We also have the ability to approve that time or sign off on it. So Andre can check on there, click the Employee tab, and sign on the screen to approve his time. Now that I've done that, he's got the check mark, just like the other two that already had their time approved. And then I can also come in as the manager. Well, that's checked up here. Hit the manager button, and I can sign off on Andre's time as well. Now what happens is those signatures actually come into the cloud and accompany that record. Now I can have settings to auto-synchronize this when I launch the app. I can push them off right now, so it's very quickly synchronizing. And now while that's doing that, I want to bring up the cloud login to show you exactly what that looks like on the back end now that it's been collected. So if I come in here and go to the time, I'll see based on the date range, the period that I have enabled here. These are the shifts that have been brought in. Again, I've got Andre Biggs, the Payson City Water Treatment Plant, clock in and out, date and time, cost code, total, the equipment, the units that he completed. This could be loads. These are custom labels for the units. But you see here on this Employee Manager and SO1, these are those approvals of those times. If I click on that record and we look at sign off, I can actually look physically at that signature that was completed on the tablet. Here's the manager's signature. I'm checked off here, and what you can see also is that an admin here in the office actually approved that already. So that check is already in place. We've got additional levels of approval you can enable. One of the other things is all of these headers here can be customized to match the data that you want to see. So if I'm a union shop or I have department, maybe I want department to be down at below union. Maybe I want to look at the division that they're in, and I want to put that up there by the union and department. I can reorganize this view, and when I click this check here, it saves that new view and will update what I'm looking at. So now I have union, department, division, all in this line item. This is all user definable. So every time I log in, I will see my data this way. Now, we've got approvals. This particular one here, as I look, does not have this office approval. If I click here, I can simply come down here, go to sign off. Based on my login, date and time, and if I had the second level turned on, I could also do that. Typically that would be a secondary person, but you see all of that data, when I hit save, those approvals will come in and be checked off so that I can visually see who else needs to review what time records. If adjustments need to be made to somebody's shift or any edits, again, I have the ability to come in here, click on edit, because I'm authorized with my privilege to change that time, let's say to 6 a.m. And maybe the out was at 3 p.m. I hit save, and we're going to see that record from 8:57. We're going to see that was changed to 9 hours. So now that I've done that, there's an audit trail that shows was manually edited. I can also come in and put in a note as to why I made that change. Adjusted time properly. And now that note will accompany that record and date and time based on my login or name. And then you'll see again there's a note and then also that audit trail. So there's lots of tags here to help bring those things to your attention. If I look at this one, the GPS is fine, but there's a biometric issue. Okay, go back to facial recognition tab, and I didn't capture punch in and out. It's saying, hey, I don't have an image in this particular case. Or I come up here on this one, I look at recognition. Here I am, clocking in and out, doing a webinar. I'm 97 and 98% match, and I have this image without my glasses. So still extremely accurate. If I look at the GPS map, this one's fine. Let's look at one that's not. I can zoom in or out. And I click on this punch. I am 0.4 miles away from the job site, and I may have 0.33 or 0.25. I'm not on that job. Close, but I'm not there. So very accurate, very user-friendly, and again, actionable because I'm bringing it to the admin's attention when those issues occur. Now, if I go back into the forms module, just to go back to the COVID and safety, I can look at different forms. This is what it looks like in the cloud. It can be filled out here also. It doesn't have to be in the mobile app. But I can also look at in the build of that form. If I click in there and go to the COVID safety, right here is where I put that link, this YouTube link. Now, if I look at all these different links here, and I want to replace one of the links that I had with something else, I can copy that link and very quickly update that. And as soon as I save that in the form, and I go back in my mobile device, if I go back here and clock in or out, and go to look at that COVID safety link right here. Now, this is the one we saw before. I can watch it right here from my device. But I come back and synchronize my device to get the update that I just saved here in this form for the link. Right here. As soon as this is done synchronizing, that new link of the hand washing instead of the 1918 pandemic will be available in the form. So as quickly as you make that adjustment and save it and someone connects to the cloud, that data is now updated and available. So if I go back in and I go to clock in and it launches the form, I click on the link. There's the hand washing video. So within 30 seconds, this could be changed. So if on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, or you want to update topics, you can do that just by simply making an adjustment to this link in that form. And so this goes for everything, not just COVID, but any other safety training, any other things that you need to share. We've got customers that are recording internal messages, things for people to view and review to their teams. Company announcements, other things that can also be linked up in this type of a format. So lots of options and lots of power and control that you gain by utilizing this type of technology and this product. All right, with that, I want to quickly go to our Q&A and see here. Let's back up on the screen. All right. So we had a few questions sent in, so I'll address those now. The first question, what is the application of these COVID-19 clock in, clock out updates if we are not sharing the device? Okay. So if the device is not shared and you want to have individuals use their own device, they will get that link just like we saw in the mobile app directly on their phone or their tablet. They get their own clock-in information. All of those things are able to be managed on their own device or any device. All right, question 2. If we need to change the video link for a new COVID-19 training video, how is it done? So I actually just went through that. I'm sure that the question came in before I went through that, so that's great, and that we already answered that. It says, how quickly can our employees have the new link? So the answer is within minutes. All right, the next one. If you have a form on clock out, is the out time captured when they hit out or when they confirm filling out the form? Okay, so that's a great question. So essentially in the mobile app, what happens is the employee form is launched when they hit the out button initially, and they fill the form out, and once they complete the form, there's a confirmation screen that comes up to confirm they're out. So the clock doesn't stop until they're done filling the form out, and I think that was the basis of the question. All right, does it require a user license to email the daily progress report to project owners? That's a really good question also. All right, so yeah, I like that question. No, they do not need a user license to get a copy of the form externally. And let me show you how that happens. So right here on this form, this is COVID-19, I go to my subscription tab. On this form, if I come in and hit add, this is where that is built. So I can pick from employees in my employee list within the system. These employees are going to get a copy automatically now. Also, I'm going to call this COVID-19 form. Alert. Okay, so they're getting this COVID-19 form alert automatically. That's the subject of the email. They'll get this completed document that looks like the one that we filled out. Maybe here. So they'll get a copy of that automatically if they're in that distribution list. Oh, farther, that's nice. Glad they were safely on this side of the sidewalk. All right, so they're all going to get that form, and then externally, I can say Amy at a+benefits.com. Now, Amy is going to get a copy of that also externally. Okay. So Amy doesn't need a license into WorkMax. Amy doesn't have anything to do with WorkMax or the system. Amy can give feedback or say, here's what I need or require for HR or compliance. And then we can build that in the WorkMax format. And then that form would be sent to Amy automatically when it was completed. So no license required, and still can be shared externally. All right. Question number 6, and there's 2 more total. So 6 is, what happens if the clock out photo doesn't match their employee profile photo? Can they still clock in? That's a good question. Of course, just like we saw, if I come back to my Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson stuff or whatever image that didn't match, for example. Still let me clock in for The Rock, even though I'm not The Rock. So that answers that question. And then the very last one, can a form be filled out in the middle of their shift, or is it only on clock in or out? Okay, I like that question also. Let me just show you in the mobile app. Launch this guy again. All right, so here we are. What you'll notice here is I have time clock, time sheet. So there is a time sheet that someone can fill out after the fact also. We won't go into on this webinar. time review, we looked at the signatures and we saw that. Equipment, so assets and equipment tracking, and then forms. So all I need to do in the middle of my shift is I can come in and fill out any form I want. Now these are forms that have been completed already, quite a few. I hit the add button, and now I'm presented with a list of forms that are available to me as an employee. These could be defaulted to anyone, but it might be something like a per diem and expense form. And so on the per diem and expense form, I can take photos, signatures, other things. I actually completed one of those as a sample. I'll bring that up right now. So this is a form that I've completed with a little grid. It's got some totals here. So there's actually a little spreadsheet view of the data that I put in. Picture of parking, auto parts, fuel, airport parking, lube, oil, and filter. So any type of expenses can be documented. Signature, date, and time. So that form on those materials and expenses or any other form can be filled out on demand. That's the exact form that I'm looking at. Again, that list can be assigned per employee role. So yeah, all they have to do is hit the forms button and pick the form. All right, thank you all for this wonderful time together. I've appreciated having the opportunity to share what we're doing to help you with your COVID-19 safety and improve your situation with what many of us have as our paper and spreadsheet addictions. We want to help you break those so that you have real-time live field data that's actionable at your fingertips. So you're mitigating risk, reducing liability, and ultimately operating safely and profitably. Those can both be done at the same time, and this tool can help you accomplish that. Again, thank you all today, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Have a wonderful day and a great and a safe week.